Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome to our show, everyone. This is PeaCreaLive. I'm just checking something after that beautiful musical introduction by Arno. we, I'm just looking at how we started the show on the live stream. It's great. Beautiful musical introduction. Why don't we have our intro? You might be wondering. Why don't we have our beautiful video intro? Well, that's because Arno and I are maxed out right now, and so we decided to do the topic of on burnout and balance because I think both of us actually need more balance in this time. I mean, you know, actually, I've heard this is not just us. What I've heard is that people are starting to write articles about this, and a lot of the people that I've been talking to in the working world, in the corporate world, these people who can work from home and they're able to work from home, it turns out people are just getting up, turning on their computers and working like all day. You know, there's even some people are even having less balance now that they're home, and we got to reverse that situation quick before more burnout happens. I mean, this time's already stressful enough. We don't need to insanely, make ourselves super stressful with work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Just want to remind you that this is Peaceful Creativity Live, and it's a show all about helping you get more peace and creativity in your life. So burnout and balance are, prime things to talk about for that. And also, this show is one part of our a project to put love back in everything we do, to create the society we know is possible in our hearts. Or as Charles Eisenstein says, to create the more beautiful world we know is possible. And that project is called the Revolution, and there's a link to that on the screen as well as the link to Peaceful Creativity. If you want to make sure you get show updates, you can go to either of those places, and we'll post for you when we're going to have our next show. And of course, sponsors. We get a lot of emails from sponsors. We carefully consider every offer. But if you want to put a sponsor on the show, it'll have to be connected with our theme, and but we'll consider it. Thank you for sending us your
And
emails
also with our values,
and our
guys,
values.
because we
Yeah,
don't. ExxonMobil contacted us 3 times, and we said no, guys,
they
no.
they
That you
keep
what you're
wanting.
doing with the environment isn't good. It's no. They keep calling. It's being becoming unbearable,
They love
frankly.
our show. They love our show. But look, we can't take that on. We can't. That's not part of the revolution as it stands. Okay, so.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, Arnaud, why don't you kick us off? Oh, we got a few viewers. I can see that we got a few viewers watching. So I just want to also remind you that you can chat us a question about burnout, about balance, about what's going on for you right now. Share a story, share a comment, and we would love to get it on the show, which we can do for you. So thank you very much for being here with us. So Arnaud, why don't you kick us off on this topic of burnout and balance? What's going on for you
Yes.
in this realm?
So before I go into that, I just want to say that PeaCreaLive is hosted at Relovution, and that's my project with David's project to perfectly combine each other in symbiosis. And just like this symbiosis that we have in the technical world and in the values that we share, uh, David came to me today and he was like, let's talk about balance. And I came to David and I was like, let's talk about burnout. Boom, there you go, burnout and balance. So yes, I'm completely recognizing myself with the portrait that you just shared, David, about waking up in the morning, turning up the computer, and work, 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 like Rihanna. And at the end of the day, you're just like, burnout. And I've already put in place some systems to avoid that, and we're gonna probably talk about how and what can one do when he's getting close to burnout. And but I'm still looking at more balance in my life. And yeah, so that's how I would kick off this show, to ask, as you did, actually, to ask. Actually, no, you know what? That's very meta. But this afternoon, I wasn't unbalanced. I
Great.
planned too many calls, and while I'm very happy to call people instead of sending text messages. So I have calls with great people, and I'm very happy to do it. But I planned one too many this afternoon, and I just felt, oh man, this is starting to be hard, And I just went off balance, and that's why, as I'm speaking now, I feel like my brain is not fully awakened and not fully, capable of expressing what I want to say. So I'm just going to pass the mic to you so that I can breathe a little bit, David.
Thanks. No, I think that's a perfect example. Yeah, get the air in. Get the air in. Do some box breathing from do some havening from the other show.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
give yourself some of those good chemicals.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, do
I work
do
best on the arms. Yeah,
oh, okay, great. Do some havening from that. Yeah,
yeah.
deep breathing and havening. That'll give you those good chemicals. This is a great tip, everybody who's seeing this. I mean, this is a proven way to give your body some beautiful, good chemicals that you need and like.
Really
So
works.
I've also been out of balance. You know, one of the ways that I've noticed that I'm out of balance is that I have this one commitment that I made that just keeps sliding. I'm going to have to send another email today, the second email on this one commitment that is going to be like, you know what? I got pulled into all these other things that I had to take priority, and now this is sliding again, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to have to send that email, but it's the truth. So that's one thing that's, we can talk to you about when you're approaching a burnout situation. You got to start doing triage. You got to start just cutting off whatever you can that isn't actually important for you in the moment. Stephen Covey, that famous consultant who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the he came up with that way to measure your to-do list by, is it urgent? Is it important? Is it urgent and important? Or is it none of those things? And if it's none of those things, don't do it. If it's urgent but not important, those are the things that we tend to get, like that we think we have to do. We feel a lot of pressure to do. We have anxiety to do them. And but that usually, if we focus only there, we sacrifice the things that are actually important but not urgent. So we have to make space for those, and we'll talk about some of that today. And of course, anything that's urgent and important, that's what you do. So this commitment that I made, it's urgent, but it's not as important as these other things right now. So I had to cut it off. I had to do triage and tell the collaborators, like, look, I didn't make any progress on this one so far. So it's a bit, it's easy to just keep working. It's easy to just keep working, especially now that we're all working from home. Right?
Yeah. Let me jump out on this idea of triage, because I've made some interesting discoveries recently, and that I'm experimenting with. So you guys are regular viewers of the show, obviously. You as well, ExxonMobil. So you remember the episode where we talked about doing the inventory, where there are all the activities of our day, and we can rank them, or we can rate them rather, based on the excitement, the joy, the impact they have, etc. So I've been trying to measure this without using the number 7, right? So one is one is bad, 10 is great, and 7 is this nice number that I usually like because, I don't know, it's kind of magic, but I forced myself not to use it. And what it did is that it pushed everything is clearer, basically, because if one of your activities is a 6, you know that something's not going great, or that it's not super exciting you. And if it's an 8, you're pretty sure that no, there is enough juice there. But if it's a 7, it's kind of the number where you're like, nah, yeah, I get, yeah, okay, yeah. So it was that's what I'm testing now at the moment, and the other concept that I'm testing at the moment is the just 1 and just 10. And I'm a beginner at this, so I still do a lot of activities which are between 1 and 10. But I want to push it more and have more things which are okay. You know what? It's cool, but it's not amazing, so I don't want it in my life. So I have more time to what I consider to be a 10. And I'm just starting to experiment with that. So I'll check back with you soon, probably. Do
Yeah.
you have some techniques, David, that you use for triage?
Well, first of all, I want to comment on this inventory thing that you talked about. That's I love that you brought up the inventory. I think that's a super useful tool for how to manage burnout and balance. In fact, the inventory tool we're talking about is where on the left side of a piece of paper, you write down all the things you're doing in a certain area of your life, like work. You write down all the things you do at work on a given day, all the ways you're spending your energy. And then on the right side of that piece of paper, you do a rating, a 1 to 10 rating. And you can ask yourself questions like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you go through every item and you ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the level of joy I have doing this item? What's the level of feeling alive or energy that I get from this item? 1 is the worst and 10 is the best. And Arnaud is what he's saying is that he's saying is that he found that if he can just rate something a 7, kind of is good enough to keep on his list, but it's not high enough to really get that juice and really help him focus on what's important. So I really like that you brought that distinction. Yeah, I think that you can make it a more binary choice when we're doing these ratings. And now might be a good time to do that. I'm facilitating I'm actually teaching a session on how to structure your day to be more healthy, balanced, and effective to 100 people on Wednesday, and with a company in the US. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking to them is about this inventory tool, but it's specifically with one specific question. Is this thing draining my energy or giving me energy? So not needing to rate it with a number, but just a binary choice. It's either a drain, it's either an energy drain, or it's an energy pump. And the question is, so now is a great time, people who are in this feeling burnout, wanting to get more balance, write down the way you're spending your day on the piece of paper, all the things, and rate those things. Is it giving you energy, pump, or is it an energy drain? You can actually structure your day to be made of mostly activities that give you energy. I mean, you can feel like you go through almost a whole day never feeling low on energy. Like if this show, for example, I worked all day today, was feeling low energy before the show, but I know the show gives me energy. As soon as we got connected on Skype, as soon as we get on live, I'm getting this energetic boost, because I know that this show is an energy pump. So we have to line our lives with energy pumps. And if you find something that's an energy drain, you have to either remove it. From your life, you have to either reduce it or delegate it. In some cases, you can tweak it to make it less of a drain, or even turn a drain into a pump if you tweak enough of what you're doing. But most of the time, if you find a drain, you got to get rid of it. Your energy is your most precious resource. Some people say time is our most precious resource, but you can't control time. Everybody has the same amount of time, assuming they're alive, but going through this day, time is just the earth rotating and revolving around the sun. Going through that daily rotation of the earth, the quality of your energy and the amount of energy you have is what's going to allow you to actually do things with that time. So for me, it's more about energy, and that energy drain question is one way I figure out what do I need to reduce, remove, or delegate, or cut out. Yeah. So that's a triage question for me. By the way, one of our regular viewers made a comment. Dan Hoffman, he made a comment 100%. I don't know what he was referring to, but thanks, Dan. I appreciate that you feel it resonated with you 100%. Let us know more if you feel like it. Happy to put it on the show. Great. So yeah, Arnaud, what were you going to say?
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say, so let me go freestyle right here. I think that it's a very great way to simplify the process. It's just either a pump or my wife is leaving, so she's there. You want to be on live? No? Okay, all right. Sure. I mean, she's not leaving. She's not leaving me. Hopefully, she's just leaving the house. Anyway,
it's hard to tell sometimes.
So yeah. Well, I hope she come back. Anyway, so I like it because it simplifies, and oftentimes there's a lot of system out there, a lot of methods, and I like that you have two categories: is it a pump or is it a drain? And I love that it simplifies this decision making. And what I wanted to say is about how balance can bring another dimension to that, to the qualification of those activities. For example, having calls with friends, definitively a pump of energy for me. But today, too much calls got out of balance and I feel drained, and I wasn't fully there in the fourth, half an hour or 45 minutes call I had. I wasn't fully there, so it was starting to go from pump to drain. So that's why balance is so important in everything we do. You do too much. I mean, working out is great. It's good for you. You do too much of that, you're drained. Working is nice, especially if you find something that you care for. But if you do that too much, it's going to turn into a drain. So I think it's very important for each of us to kind of judge not only what we do, but to which extent do we do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I couldn't do this live show all day. But when it comes time for the live show, a fixed amount of time, container, it's a total energy pump. So I like what you're saying here. And energy pumps can turn into drains if we overuse them. So I guess what we're talking about is scattering, making sure we have different types of energy pumps, And I think there's four specific types of energy pumps that we're looking for. And we're looking for physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy pumps. And these recharge us. Now, of course, there's a whole separate category, and that's like work. But we can't just do work all day like people are doing. They're getting burned out. In fact, we have a update from Dan. He said that he was talking about taking recharge time. He was saying 100% to that, and he says that I'll put him on screen here. He took 2 much needed recharge days last week, and he feels far more productive this week. So, people don't realize, thank you, Dan, really appreciate that. It's a great point because people don't realize in the thick of it, in the stress moments, people don't realize that rest makes you far more productive.
Yeah.
Rest makes you far more productive. Maybe all of us have had the experience of taking a nap, and then being so much more productive after the nap. I'm a big fan of afternoon naps. But what I'm experimenting with right now is like, I used to chunk my day. So I would have my morning routine. Then I would try to do all my work. Try to get on camera here. Try to do all my work. And then I would have do some movement and exercise and eat and dinner and things like that at the end of the day. But what I'm finding is that it's just the human body was not meant to stay still that long. You know what I mean? Our human body was made to move like almost all day. I think that if we, the signals that we're giving our bodies by just sitting all day is our bodies must be like, are we sick? Like we only stay this still when we're sick. Are we dying? Are we dying? That's why we're so still. So what I've decided to do and have been experimenting with is do a wake up, do some of my morning routine, but not everything that I was doing. And then do some work, 2 hours of work, then leave the house, do the rest of my morning routine, come back to the house, do 2 hours of work, then leave again, go do a workout, come back, do, eat, and then maybe do 2 more hours of work. And that kind of, spreading that workout like this, I think, and you need like a 2-hour block if you're going to do something really intense and creative. You need like at least, 2 hours for that stuff to start flowing. I mean, almost the first hour sometimes is just getting into it, if you're doing something really intense and creative. So that I think will help me a lot because my body will get the signal that, oh no, we're not staying still for a long time. We're moving. It's going to replenish my physical energy, and I'm choosing activities throughout the day in this like on-off structure that fill up my emotions, my help me mentally focus and fill up my spirit as well. So that's what I'm testing right now.
That's great. That's a great way to to see it concretely, like to pick the activities based on these categories. I So I thought two things. First one is that my day is chunked automatically with this movements time because every time I'm not working here in my office with a monkey. I don't know if it's on camera, but I have a monkey in my office. Every time I'm not working, I go downstairs, and when I go downstairs, I see my kids, and what do the kids want to do? They want to play. So all of a sudden, I'm literally going from 2, 3, or 4 hours of sitting and working to up. I'm in the garden running to try to catch my son or to avoid him catching me. And this is such a quick recharger. I do that for 10 minutes, and I'm like, wow, I'm a new man. And that's fantastic, and I like that you put it consciously, and that for me it kind of happened automatically because of kids. So kids are a great gift. And the other thing I was thinking about was what about long long meditations, when you spend like 2 hours sitting, 3 hours sittings or more. the I think that's fascinating. I know it's a little bit off tangent, like it's a kind of a tangent from the balance and burnout. But when you were saying that our body is not made for stillness, basically for sitting and for not moving, I'm like, that's that's I agree with you. That's, however, very interesting when you think about what's going on when you force yourself to stay still in order to reach some deepest state of consciousness and touch base with the higher self, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
What
well,
what do you have some thoughts about that?
what's coming up for me? First of all, I'm really glad you brought up meditation because that's a great way to help reduce burnout. I mean, it's been shown over and over again scientifically. It's just a great way to reduce burnout because stress comes from our minds. Stress comes from our minds, and if we're not, we need practices that help us detach from some of that thinking and help us just watch some of that thinking, help some of that thinking relax so that we can have less stress. Stress is a huge energy drain. Dealing with stress, I mean, it's just a huge, you're in survival mode, you're in crunch mode, you're in like you only have certain resources available to you. It's not a, it's made, we can go into stress for very short periods to be extra motivated to avoid a tiger, but prolonged stress it just kills people. So literally. So I'm glad you brought up meditation. I mean, in those long retreats, for example, like a 7-day Vipassana retreat or 10-day Vipassana retreat, I haven't yet done one, even though I've done other meditation retreats and silent ones, just not exactly that style. But one of the things they teach you in there is a walking meditation, as well as just
Mm,
a sitting meditation. And they teach you, mindfulness is really about, you could turn anything into a meditation if you get present enough, and it's really that, not thinking about the past or future, thinking only about what's right here, right now. That's like how, that's getting our brain tuned in to some of the meditative brainwaves that help us de-stress. So, you can use anything. And many people tell me like, oh, my bike ride is my meditation. Now, your bike ride definitely brings you into the present moment and definitely relaxes your thinking and lets your brain, kind of sort itself out. Just it's, but real meditation is you're feeling your inner being. You're really feeling your inner being. So it's not just, you're present in the moment, but you're feeling inside yourself as you're present in the moment. And some vigorous activities, it's just more difficult. But you can do it in like a walking meditation for sure. You can do it while washing the dishes for sure, as Thich Nhat Hanh, famous mindfulness teacher and Buddhist monk, talks about in many of his books. Eating is a great way, just feeling your inner body while you're eating and being super present with what's happening to you. moving slowly, things that let you move slowly. I do qigong every day, and that's definitely similar to a meditation because I'm moving really slowly and trying to feel everything going on in my body while I'm doing it. There's no room for thinking about past or future, you know? So this is a great way to reduce the burnouts that we're feeling now, because you got to make space for it. So you can't be working while you do that. Secondly, it recharges you. And one of the other things I like about what you said is that playing with your kids and something like qigong, you know, or yoga, for example, those things are like 2-for-1 deals, you know, like playing with your kids is emotional. Out of these 4 energies we're talking about, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, playing with your kids is emotional. It's emotional connection. It's joy. It's fun, but also you're moving. So it's physical, you know, and you know, and maybe if it really brings you into the present moment and you're really focused on it, it's also could be mental, you know, if it gets you to access to access the higher dimension of yourself, to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, it could also have a spiritual component. So we want to look for these, you know, in between when we're working, we want to look for these things that give us these like 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 deals for the 4 types of energy, you know, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Yeah.
I love that. Um, I wanted to react to what you said about the bike ride, because although I agree that it's not primarily a meditative activity, I think it's possible to bring mindfulness to it, even though you're there. After you kind of got to know the real meaning of the present in one of the other practices that you talked about, whether it's qigong or yoga or meditation itself. And that's actually what I'm working on at the moment on my spiritual quest, is to infuse everyday moments with mindfulness. So when I'm running after my kids, when I can, not all the time, and I try to really connect with everything that's going on around me and within me. And sometimes I have those moments where I need to stop running and just I'm overwhelmed by all the sounds, all the lights. It's amazing, and I'm completely sober when this happens, you know, and drug free. And but I think that everything can be. I think that the whole point of you know, training mindfulness in meditation is so that you can make your life better.
Yeah.
And by better, I mean that you can show up more often in your life, you know, and not be, as you were saying, in the future, in the past, not running after your kids, but really what you're thinking about is your business. But really be there in that moment. And obviously you can do that as well for the bike ride. And
while you're
yeah,
pausing,
but
I just want to say, Dan just left us a note saying that he's going to drop off. Hey, thanks, Dan. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
And also, he said that he really liked your analogy. He said that when he was burnt out, working out was a great analogy because he had the emotional equivalent of sore muscles. So it's like what you talked about. You went to the gym and you pushed yourself. Going to the gym feels good, but then if you overdo it, it just becomes an energy drain. It becomes an injury. And he said he had that emotional equivalent of that. He pushed himself so much emotionally with his work that he needed a couple days off because his energy pumps went overboard. So that's great. Thanks, Arno. You helped out Dan today.
Well, so, I'm glad.
I completely agree with you that mindfulness is something we can bring into all aspects of your life. You could absolutely make bike riding mindful. I'm not trying to say don't bike ride. Like that's crazy. I mean, bike riding probably also hits like, you know, mental, emotional, physical deal, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's great. That's great. Yeah. There are certain things the human body is only doing when we're moving. That's why I brought up that moving thing, you know, because like our lymphatic system, for example, relies on our body's motion to help move lymph around, you know what I mean? As well as the interstitial muscles in the lymph, you know what I mean? So digestion is sometimes helped by motion, you know? So these are, you know, the movement of our bodies and our evolution is really efficient, you know, in many ways. And our bodies are so efficient. Like every motion we're doing is not, I'm not just moving my hand. I'm like, you know, the lymph in my shoulder is getting squeezed,
yeah.
You know, it's helping drain the lymph in my shoulder. So it's really like I think I'm really glad people right now are not at work because like, if they can, work from home is what I mean, that more people are having the chance to work from home because you have a chance to change the way your day was. You don't have to be 9 to 5 in a specific position, basically, except for a break for lunch. You can incorporate more movement into your day, deep breathing into your day. You can incorporate more. You can do 5 minutes of dancing or singing, and which is great for the lungs, great for stress release, great for the body, and you're not, and you can, and no one's gonna see you. You know what I mean? Like this is the
Yeah.
perfect opportunity to find rebalancing habits.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a challenge as well to find the balance between those activities and the work because I was talking with someone this afternoon who's a CEO of a big company, and he told me that although he was advocating for home office in his companies for years and allowing it and everything, he never really practiced it himself. And he was surprised that it was new for him. And he's super experienced in his field and he's like very, successful person, but it was new for him and for many of well, I cannot say for us because I've been doing work home office for a while now, but for many, many people, it's like new. And how do I structure my day? How I find balance so that I avoid burnout? So maybe we could talk about that, some techniques that people could use. And actually, I'm really interested in techniques because I need it as well. I am currently in the situation where I have all the elements. I practice some of them, and yet I find myself falling out of balance and into burnout regularly. Like I would say twice I came into burnouts, or maybe not a full burnout, right? Because I recovered quickly, but I went into burnout twice the last 3 weeks. And once I called you and you told me, dude, get a day of rest, get a day of nothing. And when you told me that, it seemed to be impossible to do. That's crazy. I was like, well, but I cannot, because if I cannot, then this email won't be sent and this presentation won't be finished and this blah, blah, blah. And it was so, I could understand in that moment what, I don't know, workaholism means, when it's like an addiction. No, but I cannot, it's just not possible. And it's kind of, yeah, I think it's starting to happening for me today, right? So I need to find clear way to find balance.
And what did you do in that last situation? Did you take that day of nothing, or what would you do? How'd you
I
recover?
I I obsessed over Sudoku.
Oh, you obsessed over Sudoku. You got into Sudoku. Nice.
Because I somehow so okay. Disclaimer: every morning I meditate, I write a journal, I do the things, then I work out every day somewhere during the day. But even with these elements which are in my day, I found that I need to put my mind to something else than work. I needed something to grab. And there was this Sudoku book, and I was like, oh, Sudoku, can't be that hard, huh? So I started, and then I was obsessed. But it was how to explain? It was a pumping obsession.
Mm.
A pumping obsession sounds weird, but it was a pumping obsession anyway.
It
And
replenished you.
I felt yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I felt like I could stop thinking about work from for a while because I was focused on that, and it was easier to get out of Sudoku back into meditation time with children, mindfulness, than it was from going from leaving work to go to these things. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It was like this nicotine patch, basically. Yeah, let's put it like that.
Well,
Sudoku was my nicotine patch.
but you're not addicted to it now, right?
No, no,
No.
because okay, well, this is a whole other conversation about Sudoku that maybe we can have another
Okay,
time.
we'll
But
have a Sudoku episode.
uh, yeah,
Well, I
yeah, no,
think
I'm not addicted.
I like what you said a lot. Put your mind's focus on something that doesn't have to do with work. To give your mind something to do that isn't work. But you also highlighted something really important, which is this sense of anxiety that is actually driving most of us to work so hard. Why are we
Yeah,
doing this to ourselves? Like, is this what human life is supposed to be like? You know, like this is like we just work all the time. That's what living is. That's what life had planned for us. That's what I mean. It sounds absurd when I think of it from life's perspective that we just do all this, we do all this work like that. Unless it's just a complete source of joy for us and every moment we're doing it is, we're feeling more and more alive. That's what life wants, more life. So, this anxiety, actually meeting that anxiety, looking at that anxiety and realizing that so I was having anxiety as well, feeling like I'm never going to get everything done that I need to get done until I made a boundary. So I think that's the big catch-all phrase around what we're trying to get from burnout to balance is you got to make boundaries. And those boundaries can come in several forms. And I'm going to share a couple forms that are coming up right now. One of them is the boundary of what's really important and what's not important. And you have to decide how you're going to measure importance. How you measure importance will completely change. If you measure importance based on how much money I'm going to get, or you measure importance based on how good I feel when I'm doing it, or how much does it match my values, you're going to get very different answers for what's actually important. So you have to decide how you're going to measure what's important to you. Yeah. And then you have to make a decision about what's really important and what's not. You can't have more than one or two important things every day. So that's one of the first boundaries I would suggest people set is, you want to finish the day like you really accomplished something. I think another reason people get stuck in burnout is they do so much work, but then what have I really accomplished? What progress have I really made? So either the night before or when you start your day, you have to write down what's going to make me feel like I made progress that day. What's really important for me making progress. And then that thing becomes your most important activity. And your most important activity, you want to make the boundary of, as long as I get this done today, I'll know I've had a good day. And you do it first as your first acts of work should not be reacting to everybody's messages. Your first act of work should be, well, there's no should, but your first act of work could be do the thing I've identified as my most important activity.
Yeah.
And keep that boundary really solid in this early part of your day. So that's the first boundary I would suggest. What other boundary? Do you want to suggest one? We can go back and forth.
I just want to say that I'm really happy that you use this word because it also starts with a B. So we have burnout, balance, and boundary. And when I did the live video on Facebook and Instagram to announce this live show, automatically I said, okay, it's going to be about balance, burnout, and boundaries. And I kind of heard myself say that. I was like, okay.
What?
And I haven't told it to you, and now you say boundaries. So it's like this magic. We are. Somebody said that we are the same person, and I'm starting to be scared because I feel like we are kind of merging to each other.
We're tuned in, man.
Yeah,
We're in tune.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. Boundary. But when I hear boundary, I think about people. Boundary about people. Which of the people around you are pumps, which are drains, and how you can protect yourself from it. Or enjoy it even more, or use the energy of the pumps in your life in order to move forward. So, but when I hear boundary, it's more of a defensive state against people who are draining yourself from your energy or who are making you feel anxious. And I'm going to correct what I just said because no one can make you feel anything. You're making it yourself. You're making yourself feel that. But they can trigger you into making yourself feel that. This morning, I had a very emotional conversation with my wife about that, about how I felt like I was going close to burnout at the moment, how I had a bad day yesterday. To make the long story short, it wasn't a bad day, but there was a bad moment yesterday. And I started to tell her that I really need her and that when I need her, she puts more tasks on me. And then I started to cry all of a sudden when I was telling that. I was like, oh shit, I'm crying. Okay. And
I'm
uh,
proud of you.
and then, sorry,
I'm proud of you.
proud of, oh, okay, thank you. But then we were on the other side, kind of the tears dissolved all this bullshit, and we kind of had an honest conversation with each other, and then I wasn't angry anymore, and I was like, when you told me this and this, it really gave me wing. When you told me that you believe in myself and me, and that I'm going to make it, it gave me wing, and I was so grateful, and it was such an amazing thing when you said the simple word. But yesterday I needed you to just do me this, or it's okay, it's gonna be just a little sign of affection, and you didn't do it, so I felt like this. We used kind of NVC, nonviolent communication. We used that to communicate with each other, and it was so powerful and such a pump. This discussion, who started as a complete drain, that oh shit, I'm getting in a fight with my wife, it turned into a drain. It turned into a pump. It brought us closer together. It helped us connect, and so there was no need of boundary in that case, because I could have said, okay, my wife is a drain, so I'm going to put a boundary between her and me, and that would be a rational, logical thing to do, right? But because something happened and emotion came and kind of cleared the situation, I was able to see that it was not the right solution, and give to what really matters, which is love and connection and communication.
Yeah. I think your key there in turning that from a drain to a pump was your emotional intelligence. You were aware of what you were feeling and you started to express that. And that unlocked that energy. These one way to
Mm.
look at these triggers inside of us are it's like they're stagnant, stuck energy. And emotions, I mean, this is like a cheesy phrase, but it totally is true. Emotions are energy in motion. And when we stick them, when we hold them, when we trap them and resist them, they become stuck, and it's exhausting to hold them. There's this whole concept called emotional labor. And if you're doing a lot of emotional labor, which is holding in emotions that you actually feel, or
Mm.
pretending you have emotions that you don't actually have, these are two versions of emotional labor. These masks we wear, that's emotional labor. They take energy. So the more emotional labor we're doing, which means we're not letting our emotions flow, the more close we can push ourselves to burnout that way too. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really like that you let the emotions flow. Now, as we both know, you don't always have to involve other people in letting our emotions flow. As long as you're expressing them to yourself and letting them flow with yourself, you can unlock resources of energy. But because you know how to communicate really well, using emotions with your wife, the drain turned into a huge pump. And this is available for anybody. This is available for anybody to turn something like that. So that's a great one. You brought up people. What are our actual? Now there are some people in your life that are just drains, and you don't feel like you want the connection to turn it into a pump. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
you'll probably
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
avoid those people, right? You probably won't. You could have a heart to heart with them and say, interacting with you is very draining for me for some reason. Here's what I would love
Yeah,
to,
that's true.
here's what I would love to see in our interaction, but it doesn't really happen for me. So, I don't feel energy to interact with you. And maybe, I hope you don't take offense. You probably will, but I mean, my truth is better than ignoring you. So, I
And
think,
and I mean, how often people have the guts to actually express that,
yeah,
and by people I include myself, how often it's easier to just ignore the person, or just say, okay, I'm never talking to that person again, bye, But doing this, what you just said, actually going to the person and expressing it, this is super powerful, and it can completely change the situation, can change the life of that person, can change your life. This is amazing, sorry, I just
I
it
completely,
shocked me as so important and so forgotten, the
yeah,
forgotten act of expressing your feelings without fear.
yeah, yeah. You're right. It can change. It can change lives. I mean, this is, we all have the power to change someone's life so easily. just by talking to them, being authentic, opening your heart, being vulnerable, and of course, not in an asshole way, in a compassionate way, in a
Yes.
compassionate way. Just by sharing how you're feeling, you do have a chance to change someone's life. So yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. Another area of boundaries I would want to bring up is boundaries in your environment. So what does this mean? This means, we've talked about this before a little bit, but this means make the things that fill you up, make the things that give
Oh
you
yeah.
energy and pump you up, make those things easy to do in your environment, and make the things that drain you more difficult to do. For example, well, I shared the example last time of we covered our TV. Our TV was on the wall because it came with the apartment like that, and so it was just really easy to flip on the TV. You know what I mean? But we found that we were spending our connection time in a way that wasn't particularly energetically fulfilling. It wasn't fulfilling. So what we did was we changed the environment. We covered the TV, and the TV is actually behind this curtain behind me. We changed the TV area to an area for our altar to remind us to connect to the things that are important and to
Yeah.
each other. And so now if we want to watch something, it's a whole decision about, okay, what are we going to watch? Where are we going to find it? Do we want to let's open the laptop, connect the speaker. It's a whole process. So we made it just a little bit harder that actually allows us to be more intentional about it.
Yeah.
Versus, I'll just share
I have another example, but
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll just share a counter, like the opposite example. When in my meditation, my meditation pillow is ready on a blanket in the room where I see it all the time. So when I get up in the morning, literally one of the easiest things to do, because of just it's there already, is to sit down in my meditation spot. So I always hit the meditation. I'm on a streak of like 135 days or something right now. But just
Nice.
the environment is what helps with that. So yeah, what's your example?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see my phone here.
You got to put it in the center.
This
Cover your
is
face
my,
with it. Cover your face with it for us to see it. Yeah. There we go.
yeah, okay. So this is the central page.
Okay.
Yes. And there is no texting app on that.
No.
There is no WhatsApp, no. So that's one thing. They are on another screen, but they are not immediately available neither. They are in a group, here in the middle. So that means that if I want to text or check messages, which are activity that drains me, I need to go to this screen and then click and then choose. So I put some extra clicks between me and these drains. But I still find myself doing that automatically, right? So when you were saying that to make it more difficult, I'm thinking about adding a password to access to this group. It's probably doable, because it's incredible how draining texting is for me, and I'm not just texting, but checking messages. I think checking messages is one of the big factors that bring me close to burnout.
I think I don't think that's coincidence, man. I don't think that's coincidence. Notifications are
Yeah.
a source of burnout. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You were talking about blocking 2 hours of deep work when you want to of time when you want to do some deep creative work, and notifications are the enemy of that.
Notifications are the enemy of feeling progress as well. Feeling like you're actually, moving things forward in the way you want, getting those important tasks done for sure, but just your own peace. Their notifications are just the bane of mental peace, because our brain, as soon as something pops up, our brain notices it. Our brain is primed to notice changes like that in our environment. It's evolutionarily does that, because in case there's an animal or like a gazelle over there that pops up, it was like, oh, there's a gazelle head just popped up over that bush. It's like a tiny gazelle head pops over that bush. That's like a notification popping up on the screen. And so so app users, app makers, they know this. They know that when the notification pops up and you check it, you get a little hit of dopamine, giving you a very temporary sense of pleasure that just keeps you addicted to that small, useless action. So what you do, I have all my notifications disabled on all my devices. I mean, I'm on permanent do not disturb mode in all my stuff. When I want to check something, you know, if I want to, check my messages, I have to actually go look at, do I have any, and then click on the thing and go there. It's never popping up for me. So that's one thing that helps me out a lot. But there's another hidden cost here that not a lot of people talk about. And that cost is the cost of task switching. So every time your brain switches tasks, there's an energetic cost associated with that. So this could be one of the reasons it's so draining. You're noticing it's so draining, or no? Because say you're focused on an email, but then the notification comes up. Say your email is to your a collaborator, but then an email comes up from the client, and you get a notification that it's there. Now your brain has gone from the whole internal brain context of this collaborator, who they are, how I want to communicate to them, what I'm saying to them, all the projects I have with that collaborator, all the shared history I have with that collaborator. That's all in your brain's mind when you're working on that email, and then the notification pops up, something from the client, and now your brain
And you're split.
switches to that, and all the stuff associated with that client comes in, like, oh, what does this client want? What's this client saying? Do I have to return that message? And all that happens in a split second. But the amount of energy that it takes your brain to do all that, like refiring to focus on the new thing, is a huge energy cost. It's a huge energy cost. And if you're doing if you're trying to task switch, say between meeting somebody and working on a report, according to the research into this, it can take your brain up to 15 minutes to fully switch into the second task, to fully switch. So if you're interrupting yourself all the time, if you're working, let's say the first 15 minutes are, getting your brain fully switched into a project you're working on, into a task you're working on. If you get interrupted 20 minutes in, you've done 5 minutes of work on that task. If you get interrupted 30 minutes in, you've done 15 minutes of work on that task. And then let's say you get interrupted and you switch tasks. Now it's going to take you maybe 15 minutes, maybe slightly less, to get into a new task.
Yeah.
You can see why we feel like we're not getting anywhere, and we just keep fucking working.
Love that. So guys, disable notifications right now. On Android, that's pretty easy to do. You just long press the icon, and then you click on the I for information, and then you can turn off the notification. And that was a big one for me as well, cutting all the notification. David, we are 7 minutes close to the end. Maybe it's time to wrap up and to summarize everything that we said about burnout and balance. Do you want to go with that? I know you're already great with summaries.
Oh, thanks, man. We'll see how well I listened today. Well, let's recap then. Let's each talk about, our main takeaways from today. We'll summarize that way.
Okay.
But one of the first things we talked about was getting all four. There are 4 ways that you replenish your energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So have something have something for each of those 4 categories every day.
Yeah.
And
try to combine them so that some of your activity gives you energy on several of these categories.
Exactly. Like the playing with your kids example that you had, fills you up emotionally, brings you in the present moment, makes you move because you're running around with them. So that's a great example. I think one of the second things we talked about was break up your day to have more motion and energy replenishers. So we talked about having maybe 2 hours of chunked blocks of really focused time to get your work done and do your progress. And in between those 2 hours, since you're not at work or in the office right now, many people take the opportunity to go for a walk outside, go play with your kids, play with your dog, do something that changes your whole where you are and what you're doing and moves your body, and do that multiple times a day. I'm finding I need to do that multiple times a day. I was doing it kind of at the beginning, at the end of my workday, not working anymore. Now it's like for lunchtime, I'm doing it as well. So my day is broken up into like 3 working periods with these energy replenishing periods in between. Yeah. So that's the next thing we talked about.
Yeah. And then another great thing that you said that I think I'm going to implement from tomorrow is that to be very clear on what would make this day feel productive. And I think the way you formulated it was what would give me the feeling that I made progress at the end of the day. Because in my journal currently I have what would make this day fantastic as a question in the morning, but I feel like it's taking away my control over it because oftentimes I write something and I don't have full control over it, so it doesn't add much. I much prefer your formulation of what could make me feel like I did some progress. And once you've identified this one or maximum two tasks that you want to complete that day, then start with them. And if you once you've completed them, that's it. You made some progress, so you can basically spend the rest of the afternoon doing whatever you want, guilt-free.
Yeah.
If I exaggerate a little bit,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That first 2 hour block, make that the place you tackle the really challenging, that challenging thing that is going to give you progress. And then in the afternoon, that's when you can spend more time checking messages, and responding to emails and doing the kind of things that don't take as much focused brain power, but you are also necessary.
Mm.
So I think that, yeah, that's a good one. That most important task, that most important progress task. Yeah. And then we talked about, in order to get that, to make sure that happens, you can't have, as you said, you can't have more than one or two most important tasks for progress. So you have to make a boundary. And we talked about several ways to make boundaries. One of them, make a boundary with what you're actually going to label as important and decide what important means to you. Is it your values? Is it progress? Is important you're making money? What does it mean right now that classifies something as important for you? And then only give each day, one or two things max that important rating. Yeah. And some other boundaries we talked about. You brought up, Arno, the people boundary. We
Yeah.
kind of approach that in two
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So boundaries. So the easiest one is to identify the people who are drained in your life and making clear boundaries. And we talk about a bonus that you could actually express that to them to create powerful conversation and life-changing moments. And the other one, which is maybe a little bit trickier, is to identify something that at first you think is a drain and actually just needs some love and communication and connections thrown at it. Like the story I shared with my wife this morning. I could have said, okay, no, this is a drain. I'm going to divorce and cut and not talk with my wife anymore. But instead, we had this very meaningful conversation and emotional, and it turns into a pump. So, yeah. Yes, I think it's important to make this distinction between, okay, that person is very, very, very much a drain. It's easier for me to just cut it completely. And no. This is just, there's something to be resolved here in order to turn it into a pump. So that's another kind of boundary.
Yeah, great. And you're reminding me that we also talked about doing the energy inventory, going through everything that
Oh, yes, of course.
going through everything that you're doing, and going through people in your life. I mean, this is a great one. You can use it on people. Write down all the
Completely.
people in your life you spend a lot of time with and rate it. Is when I spend time with them, does it feel like an energy drain or an energy pump?
Yeah.
And spend more time with the people that it feels like an energy pump. And with the energy drains, you can take those two directions that Arno just mentioned. So
Yeah.
that's
Wow,
really
we
good.
covered a lot today. Huh? Yeah,
Yeah, we
with a
covered
lot
a
of
lot.
tools today.
I feel like not even we're done with the boundaries. The final boundary that we talked about was environmental boundary. Change
Oh, yeah.
change your setup so that it's easier for you to do things that pump you, but not over. But of course, we talked about how you can overdo the pumps and they turn into drains. But make your environment so that it's harder to do the things don't serve you. I will add one more thing, which I think is really helpful because we're talking about energy and moving energy into getting our energy flowing into the things that serve us. And so another environmental boundary is having a different physical location in your home office environment where you do certain types of work, and
Yeah.
definitely have a different physical location for where you work compared to where you play or relax. Like
Yes.
don't watch like relaxing or just entertaining YouTube videos in the same place that you do your work. If you have a laptop or whatever, move your computer to the couch to watch the YouTube. When you're at your desk, stay doing the work. Maybe you have, maybe you like ebooks. Well, don't read the ebooks on the computer. unless it's like a studying and work related thing. If you're just reading a ebook for your own pleasure, do it on your phone or do it on an e-reader, and do it like, in a different location. So those kind of environmental boundaries can help a lot as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Guys, it's already 7 p.m. here in Prague.
Woo.
Whoop. So thank you very much for watching. So paradoxically, in order to avoid burnout, we decided to make a show every day this
Yeah.
week. Help. Okay, no, but it's good because this show is a pump for David and I. So happy to do that. Happy to see you guys tomorrow. David, you're free, right? Tomorrow at 6
Oh yeah.
6 p.m.
Oh yeah. We have a guest tomorrow. We have a guest tomorrow.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
tomorrow's
Woo.
show we have one of my friends, colleagues, collaborators, and a really cool guy and coach named Chris Hardy on the show, and he's gonna,
No way. Really? Chris
yeah,
Hardy?
yeah, Chris
Oh,
Hardy,
cool.
yeah, he's coming on the show,
Amazing.
and he's gonna talk to us about what's going on with him, what he's noticing, some important questions he's been thinking about during this interesting time, that we're all find ourselves in. So it's gonna be a great show tomorrow.
Tomorrow, guys. So like in 23 hours, tune into this channel, the Real Low Fusion channel on YouTube. Follow. I'm still getting used to it
I made it
to
so hard
say
to
it.
say.
Check peacefulcreativity.com, check reallovution.co, right? Because it's all
Yep,
about collaboration.
that's right.
And if you want to never miss an episode of the PeaCreaLive, because we've been told that we do our promotion a bit late or not at all, which is completely true. So if you want to never miss an episode, there will be links you can subscribe to get informed. And yeah, we appreciate you watching. We want more of your questions, of your insight, inputs, and in everything. And tomorrow we have the great Chris Hardy who will be live with us, ready to answer all your questions.
Yes. So tune in then. Thank you very much today, everybody who chatted, especially Dan, who we got him on the show. So we really appreciate your questions and look forward to seeing you next time. Oh, it looks like we're about to have our outro music live. So
Don't make me laugh. With
with
David
David and
and
Arny.
Arny.